Oh, well, y'all, before I give my intro, I just got to say, Ryan, I don't know if you could hear that on your end, but Zoom literally just said out loud, this meeting is being recorded. Never happened before.
I heard it.
So, y'all, if you haven't heard this yet, be ready when you hit record next, because you're going to be surprised, just like I was.
I think that just took you all the way out. Whoa.
Totally. So, y'all, we are back for another weekly edition of, I'm not going to say a new series because now it's new-ish. It's new-ish. And this is Coaching Misunderstood. And obviously, because I have this beautiful human, Ryan Hall, with me, this is not the solo version. This is the guest version. So that lovely solo episode I shared on Tuesday about how coaching is a tool to fall madly in love with yourself. You're going to get the same conversation, but not, because Ryan and I are going to be chatting about it together today. Ryan, thank you for being a yes yet again to one of these ideas that I've just kind of launched and just started to play with.
All right. Well, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm always honored to connect with you and your audience and share what we both love about this work that we both love so much. But as you were you were saying that, I was like, yes, I am glad to be the pasta that you throw against the wall to see if it sticks.
Yes, yes, that's one of my favorites too. Yes.
Yeah.
So I've had Ryan as my pasta for a couple of times with Instagram. If you all are recognizing the name and the face, Ryan was also a guest a bit ago on my Living a Bold Life guest interview series. So some of you may be familiar with Ryan, but again, as Ryan mentioned, because this is a series where I'm inviting professional coaches in to have this conversation with me. Ryan is the owner and coach at Royal Hearts Coaching. I love that name. Life coaching for kings. He is the creator and host of the Soul R podcast, kind of like Solar, but Soul R. And some of you actually might have seen the show that he and I did together over there. So we are mixing it up together. And as an author, he is the author of Written in the Stone and was a contributing author to 2 Amazon best-selling collaborative books, The Great Pause and Redefining Masculinity. And you all, whatever platform you're on, I'm going to have links so you can find Ryan's website. If those books, those podcasts sound like they're up your alley, there'll be links for those too. So rest assured, you will be able to connect with Ryan and follow him along on his journey as well when the show is over. So Ryan, are you ready to talk about how coaching is a tool to fall madly in love with yourself?
Let's hammer some nails and talk about self-love. I love it.
And so you all, if you're new to this, or if you just weren't sure before, I don't give these coaches that I'm doing this with a script. We're really keeping it really in integrity with how coaching is. And a lot of people don't know this, but coaching, we don't come in with this big agenda. We might have some intuitive hits on maybe things to ask the client or whatnot, but largely, just like I gave Ryan this theme, this focus, that's what our client gives to us. And so we just get in the mix and we dance and we flow and we go down rabbit holes and we pop out. And sometimes we're like, nope, not that hole, covered up with dirt. And then we go to that hole. So, in one coaching session could create what we want to do in another.
Right. Right. No, it's a total chasing shiny object syndrome.
Yep.
At time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so this y'all is too. And if you've watched them, you might notice that every one of them is very different. And that I hope is the fun part, to keep it fresh. So Ryan, and no filter at all. You get to just go and say wherever you feel called. But when I reached out to you and I was just like, hey, want to hop on Zoom and talk about this? And that's really all I'm going to say. And then when I sent you an email and maybe give you a little more nudges, but really nothing much more, did anything come up right off the bat about this fascinating environment that you and I get to be in, coaching, a tool, a gift, a million different things, but largely it is something that can help us fall madly in love with ourselves.
Totally, totally. We were talking about this a little before we rolled the recording with the just beautiful announcement that Zoom now has that they're recording conversation. I'm gonna have to remember that for
In
my
case
next
we weren't sure, Zoom, now we know. Thank you.
Yes, that's definitely CYA Central right there. But yeah, I'll have to remember that for my next podcast interview. But one of the things that really that that was kind of nudging at me when when I first got that email was how the experience that I've had in coaching, not just as a coach myself, but as a longtime client, is that coaching has helped me, I think, more than anything, to fully express who I am in the world, be it through my writing, be it through my podcasting, be it through my coaching, through conversations like this. Coaching has really been that nudge to help me really express myself fully and completely. Like, I'm I just flashed on this. I don't think there would be any way that I would have participated in taking an improv comedy class unless I had been in coaching and gone through the coach training program that both you and I went to, but that I could have never done something like that unless I um, had learned to fully express myself. And that is how I show myself love, is just expressing my truth and expressing who I am, to the world, sharing my story, sharing triumph, sharing tragedies, and just all kinds of things.
Okay, so it sounds like what came up for you right off the bat when you thought of self love, it was for you part of how, maybe part of how you knew you were having a breakthrough with your relationship to self, how you love yourself. It sounds like for you, a huge tie to it is maybe if you're self expressing, what it looks like, how it's feeling for you. And so you being expressed in the world is largely correlated, if not more, with that relationship to self.
Yeah, yeah, because when I've always seen myself as a writer who got into coaching
Mhm.
from my writing. I mean, I'm definitely a writer first and foremost. And when you release, and I've released, Written in the Stone was something that I self-published close to 6 years ago. But but I when you publish a book, the things that you write, the things that you talk about, the language that you use really gets scrubbed down and perfected and almost honed like a diamond. And that was kind of a block that I always had at expressing myself, was I felt like I had to be too polished, like I
Mm.
had to be polished, like I had to be, you know, shining just by opening my mouth.
Mhm.
But in reality, the real gems, the real truth comes out when you let that guard down, when you let those contexts, when you let those, I don't know, that those blocks down, when you let that stuff down, that's when your real, like, when the real gems, when the real diamonds come out. And that has not, that mindset, that thought has not only helped my writing, but it's helped me to become a better coach, a better podcaster, and a better person.
Yeah, I love that. And so for you, it sounds like maybe where you were prior to that support and having a shift in how deeply you love yourself, your relationship to self, it sounds like self expression might have been like, all right, really polished, maybe for some people, perfection. We kind of rooted more in performance,
Totally performance. Yeah.
where it sounds like now is, it's it's maybe even knowing like, wow, maybe people can connect to me more when I'm not that polished.
Indeed.
And your guard is down, and it sounds like the way you self-express now is more intimate.
And that's a great word for it. Absolutely. It's more, I believe it's more truthful. I believe it's more authentic to who I am. As you were saying this, I flashed on a story that happened to me just a few years ago. I had a friend of mine go through just an unspeakable tragedy with her family. She had a she had a child that she lost to SIDS at like 9 weeks old, and I felt called to get on Facebook Live and read a section of Written in the Stone that I felt like, and I don't even know if she ever read it, but that that I think reflected just spiritually what could be going through her heart as she processes that kind of grief. And
Mm.
as I'm reading this, and it's my favorite scene in the whole book, but as I'm reading this, I noticed that the same word is misspelled 3 different times.
Huh.
And as a perfectionist, as a writer, that made me cringe. But the mere fact that those words are misspelled, the mere fact that it's, I find it's misspelled the same way 3 different times, the same way 3 different times. But I found that kind of ironic. But the mere fact that that word was misspelled does not take away from the fact that it's an incredibly powerful scene and one of the most powerful scenes in that entire book.
Mm.
The mere fact that that perfection doesn't, that it's not perfect, that it's not polished, that it's not, you know, diamond shaped, doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a damn good piece of writing that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, whereas, I feel like very often if and y'all, like, let's not forget, like, even when we've done a lot of work on self, relationship to self, self-love, self-care, we have our moments, right? We have
Yeah,
our
no
moments.
doubt.
So don't think Ryan over here like, nope, nope. But what I'm guessing, Ryan, by what you're getting at with that is when we are in that more of a relationship with ourselves, when we are deeply in love with ourselves, we're good to ourselves, we might notice the misspelling and say, oop, don't love that. But it doesn't mean anything about me. I'm not a loser. I don't suck. I don't need to beat the
Yes.
crap out of myself because there's an error here.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, just to the people watching this, I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of coaching. I'm, in process on getting my certification. So the hours are starting to build up. Not ready to make a declaration on that yet, but but I'm working on it. But my point is that the work that we do as clients and as coaches, it's not a straight line.
No, no.
It is not a straight line. It's all it, I compared this one time to like the squiggly mark that you make on a sheet of paper to see if a pen has gone dry.
To show you. We go up, we go down, we go back, but to get forward again, y'all, we gotta go back. So that is my very, very professional drawing of transformation.
Mm-hmm. Completely professional, but completely accurate too.
I know, it is.
Yeah, just completely accurate, because there is the only finish line for this work is the day that they lower you into the ground.
Yes, yes. Yep. Amen. Yeah, you all, the work goes on forever. You can decide to not be in the mix anymore. It'll be still be happening, not quite as deeply by any means, but there's no end there. And so I love Ryan, because I just love where this goes with all of our minds, because for you it went into self-expression, and y'all, Ryan started with improv. A lot of coaches and clients will actually do improv for breakthroughs. I was actually recommended that would be a really good thing to add to the mix, because I've never done it. But then of course COVID happened, and everything closed
Right.
down. So but that's actually on my list. And Ryan, kind of where my mind went when I thought of this theme is kind of where you and I just ended up with how we are to ourselves. And some people have heard this story, and some haven't. But when I started my coaching and leadership training, I'm a fit person. I was getting like massages and acupuncture and doing yoga and doing the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my teacher training. And I guess I really never knew really what self-love and self-care was really about. No surprise. We haven't been taught a lot of things that we do in coaching and leadership. And so I was very, just kind of meh, like when we had, like our self-care, self-love month. And I was like, what are these fools going to show me? Like, I'm quite good at this, not to toot, well, yes, to toot my own horn. And,
Honk, honk.
where it was really looked at with me, it wasn't so much in the actions, right? It wasn't the, oh, you need to get acupuncture, you need to get yoga. It was, I remember my first coach, y'all, like, wrap your mind around this. He let the bomb drop when he was like, maybe you wouldn't need all your self-care if you didn't beat the shit out of yourself. And I was like, snap, snap.
Oh, damn.
And he got me to see, because I had a complaint. And my complaint was, I feel like my flipping job is self-care. I don't even like it anymore because I'm running from appointment to appointment to appointment, and it's not empowering. And he really got me to look at, would you need all that self-care doing if you were kind to yourself? And that was the first time anyone really brought in how we treat ourselves up here through the lens of self-love.
Oh,
That hurt.
That hurts.
That hurt.
Definitely.
In the best way possible.
Oh yeah, no, definitely a tough love moment.
Yeah, right.
Definitely a tough love moment. But that brings up something that came to mind for me. When I was working with my first coach, this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks after my dad passed away. Now, again, it was not totally unexpected, but still it rocks you to your core.
Yeah.
And I'm on a call with her, and I'm just like, I had just made this declaration to publish this book by the summer. And, I started going through all this stuff, but I also started going through all this crap about why I can't do it, why I don't want to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then she just says to me, Ryan, listen to me. I'm going to tell you something you might not like, but I want you to hear me. You're suffering right now. You're choosing to suffer. Suffering is optional.
Oh yeah, that was a big bombshell when that one fell in my lap. I was like, what? I'm creating this?
I know. It's like it's man, oh man. It's like when you are so about the doing, the checklist, the how do you do this? How do you do this? The checklist, like you with your, with your yoga and your, and stuff like that. And
Yep,
me with just learning, like living life by checklists.
yep,
There's no room in that for self-expression. There's no room in that for self-love. There's no room in that for just choosing to take a few hours and just decompress. There's no room for that when you're just going full tilt boogie all the damn time. There's no room in that. There's no room to be able to come back to yourself.
yep, yep. And y'all, like, if and no shame, y'all, if you are one of these people, because I'm in recovery. I'm in recovery.
Me
I'm with
too.
you.
Yeah.
Still do my work on this. But like to what Ryan's pointing to, and this is where you could really see the gap in the self-love, right? When we're talking about checklists, yoga, self-care, they're to take care of yourself. They're to love yourself. And it took me such a challenging time. Like if I had a day where I was like, none of the stuff I planned is working for me, I'm going to shift gears. I would probably spend the good part of that day upset that I shift gears, making myself wrong for it, and forcing yourself to go to yoga or beating yourself up for not going. I mean, it's not even in the same family as that.
Oh, no, no, you're totally right. And yoga is just a great example of this. That if you go into a yoga class with that mentality, that mindset of, I have to do this, I have to do yoga, um, you're going to start beating yourself up for not being able to do the moves correctly, not to, you keep falling down in some of the balancing moves. It's not, it ain't that deep.
Yeah.
It ain't that deep. And I'm totally in recovery on this. Speaking, speaking mindfully to yourself when it comes to, when it comes to falling down, when it comes to messing up, beating yourself up is not going to do a bit of good.
Yeah, and I would have to say probably for a lot of the classes I teach, people are going to get it even more because there's not a lot of movement. We're holding things for a long time, so you don't even
Oh, that kind of practice. I got you. Yeah.
right? You don't even have the movement to distract you. You're just laying still, and you're like, "Oh dear, is this what we get to be with?" Which is almost worse than a movement-based practice, because then you're like, well, and Ryan actually, so you all, like, again, who knows where we go in these conversations, right? So you all, part of the reason I quit doing fast moving yoga was because it was just another place to check out and not be present. I didn't have to focus. And so I do the
Go
slower
figure.
stuff where you lay there for a long time. Because for me, that's more how I build the relationship to self. I have to like be slow with it. I have to see, where the heck am I today? How does this feel in my body? How does this feel in my breath? Whoa, okay, there we are.
Yep. Yep. And that's, oh God, that just really brings up so much for me. I've recently just last summer, I took up a running practice. Now, if you've known me for longer than a minute and a half, or you went to school with me, you knew I was the kid in school who could barely finish runs in gym class. And I was always the fat kid that people used to make fun of. But when I started taking on this practice and really doing it from a place of, I'm doing this because I love myself and because I want to, not because I have to, because I've got a poor relationship with my body, there's actually some fun in that. There's some fun. There's some, reconnecting with inner child in that. There's like full self, just getting back to that full self expression, which is, you know, what I kind of let off with this today.
Yeah, so self-expression, that's probably the big measure for you, huh, Ryan?
Yeah, 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 totally. And one thing that I've been working on personally in my own practice is reconnecting with my inner child, is
Mm,
reconnecting with,
beautiful
in
one.
yeah, reconnecting with my inner child. And I saw a picture, and I posted this on my Instagram. A quick post about this, but I saw a picture of Johnny Carson on the day that he taped his final show back in 1992. He was sitting on, this was right before he, this is probably right before he gave his big farewell speech,
Yep.
but he's sitting on this little milking stool, and he's not a young man at the time. I think he was 67 when he retired.
Mhm.
White hair, still fit, still, whatever. But I did not see the King Kong of late night TV. I saw a shy little boy sitting on that sitting on that stool.
Mm,
And that, I think, despite all of the tragedy and the trauma and the heartbreak that went on in his personal life, that was what made him great, was being able to stay connected with that little boy. And all the silly skits that they did on the show, and the flirtatious interviews that he did with people like Dolly Parton and stuff like that,
mhm.
that was what made him great.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was a sign of self-love, is staying connected with your inner child, staying connected with your truth, staying connected with who you were before the world showed you that being who you were was not safe.
Yeah, as you're sharing that, I'm kind of over here thinking, I don't know that it's even possible to really build that deep connection with self if at some point there's not some type of inner child work being done. Because so much of the stuff that gets in the way of our self love are those events we had as little humans. How our brain made, oh, this happened, that equals that. When we made all these crazy formulas up in our brain,
Yeah.
or even just, what gets passed down in our bloodline, our DNA, and our family history. And so I just don't think we can access those deep levels of self love without some inner child work.
No way. No way.
We
Eh,
hate to break it to you, but if you really want to go there, that's part of it. And the work we speak of, it's challenging moments, but I think like anything else, the gifts that you get from it far outweigh the challenges and
oh
far
yeah.
outweigh the shadowy parts of it, in my experience, and in anyone I've worked with,
Yeah.
which is why we have people who we can trust and who can hold a powerful, loving, clear, clean space when we do that kind of work.
Yeah, to be able to do the work ourselves, to be able to hold that space for the people who we work with, for them to have their own moments of being able to climb out from the rubble.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I like to keep notes of this, just like an actual coaching session, so I can see where we go. And I'm like, we are making some moves. So you all, and I just like to throw this in. Take from the conversation that Ryan and I are having what resonates with you. Not everything is going to be for you. Some of it might be some stuff you come back to and take later. But right now, just take what's meant for you. Um, these conversations are like any transformational book, movie, event. We can come back to it years down the line and be like, this is the same but very different. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting for this stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, yeah, it totally is. It's like they say in recovery circles, take what you want, but leave the rest.
Yep, yep. And y'all, as Brian and I are talking about inner child work, if you've heard people allude to shadow work, this is probably getting into kind of like the same vein as shadow work. And the reason why I know he and I and many other coaches are pretty clear, that that has to come into the mix sometime. It is the stuff that gets in the way of our essence, of our truth, of our higher self, whatever the terminology. There's a lot of words out there that are interchangeable for these types of things.
Yeah, yeah, staying away from the jargon. I think that's ICF no no.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But as you were talking about the inner child work, I'm reminded of something that happened during my coach training program here. And I, one of the mentor coaches stops me in the hallway, and she shows me this picture that she took of me as I'm taking notes during the middle of I don't want to call it class, but that's essentially what it was. And she remarked to me just how much of a little boy that I looked during this, like I've got like this super serious, concentrated look on my face, but I'm also in my late 30s and wearing a full beard. And it was, but it reminded me so much of a picture of a look that I had when I was probably 5 years old.
mm,
So there's, getting that, it's like I have a saying that I've used with my clients before. He's like, you got to get the crap out so the gold can flow.
yeah,
It's like that's exactly what we're doing, because yes, sometimes this work hurts. Sometimes this work sucks. It's going to leave you in the fetal position with an entire box of tissues in front of you. But if you really want to get to that next point, to get to the other side of just that big, pardon the pun, but that big, bold life that you want, you've got to do the work.
yeah,
And and with the knowledge that the work doesn't end. I mean, and like I said before, it only ends the day that they lower you into the ground.
yeah, yeah. And so you all, this is the same for any concept that we're talking about, in coaching and leadership. But what Ryan's and I are really pointing to right now is, you know, I think we know that when we're maybe in a committed partnership, a marriage, whatever our version of that is, we're pretty clear that there's always going to be something to put in, right?
Yeah,
Like there's two people growing together, trying to grow together. I think we're more well versed with that, but I don't think a lot of us stop and realize that the work we do with ourselves, it is never ending. It's not all of a sudden like, oh, okay, I love myself and I'm not going to love myself any more than this. So let's stop, and my self-care is never going to get any better than this. Because the kicker is, like and I always say self-love drives the self-care. That's the being, self-care is the action. But I'm always having to keep checking in with relationship to self, because all that stuff I do frequently changes.
yeah,
As I keep changing my relationship to me, I keep finding that that's not really authentic for me. And so it's always in flux.
that's such
It's
a
always
great
in
point.
flux.
That's such a great point, because the work that we do on ourselves, I like that it drives it. I really like that. But the
Yeah,
work
because
that
it's
we,
almost like
yeah,
when our being is really like in love, we're more reliable to take the actions that correlate with it, right?
totally, totally. Because, but that work, the actions that you take in service of that self-love today may not be the same actions that you take a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. People change, people evolve, people
Yep.
transform, and got to learn to be flexible in that regard.
Yep. And like a perfect example of that, y'all. And this is why it's there's a lot of support out there. It can be overwhelming. We just have to take it one step at a time. But a lot of what I needed before, I think it was really focused on nervous system, like brain and body, because my human needed a lot of support. My human is in a very different place right now. And so a lot of what I find my guides and my intuitive self is guiding me towards, it's more support these days. And this will also change. But these days lately, it's more support in the energetic realm than it is the physical realm. Like my human body doesn't need all the stuff that it used to, but my energy body needs more than my human body and needs more than it used to, which is
Mm,
newer territory for me. So
yeah.
I'm kind of wrapping my head around it and having to really ask, you're feeling like these appointments for the physical body aren't doing a whole lot right now. Take a break. See how you feel. Maybe you don't need all the body work right now. It's been fascinating.
Yeah, that's that. Oh, that, I mean, that could take us off into a whole different
I know,
episode.
right? We got 10 other shows coming up, y'all.
but the thing that brings up for me is that regardless of what religious beliefs you might have, I truly believe that we're all souls, but with a skin suit.
Yep, yep.
And that's why I'm so drawn to soul work. That's why I'm so drawn to that kind of work. That's one of the reasons why I named my podcast Solar Powered.
Mhm.
It's also one of my essence words that they gave me during the coach training program that fits me like a charm. But there's just when we are able to separate that, the physical doing from the soul being, that I think is where you can really level up your self-care. Because just like me going out for a run, I'm probably going to go out for a run after we get done recording this, kind of feeling a little stove up, as they say back home in Alabama. But I what was I going with this? Oh, that when you start to realize that the physical thing that you're doing is also helping that energetic, that soul thing that you're trying to support, that's when you can really level up this self-care.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really interesting, right? Like, cause like my soul felt like it was on fire before, but my human couldn't handle half this, half the shit that I wanted to do. My
Right.
human was like, I am ungrounded and freaking out and I don't have the energy. And hey, girl, your nervous system's shot. So you're going to pay attention to that. But it was like I had to get like my body and my nervous system and in a place where it could do the work of my soul.
Oh yeah.
Again, I'm one of those people where I look very healthy, but my issues, it was trauma, it was focus, it was stuff that people can't see by looking at your body. But getting my mind like, whoa, let me out of here, let me out of here. So that was a lot of the stuff that needed support before I could do a lot of what I'm doing now.
Bingo, bingo. And that's just really powerful testimony to, again, just kind of leveling up and knowing what you need. It's very find it very ironic that I've recently started seeing a new doctor here locally in Stamford, Connecticut. And I had not gone to see a doctor in probably several years before
Yeah.
I started seeing him. Didn't have insurance for a while, but that's another story between me and my therapist. My point is that with the work that I have been doing uh on my energetic, my soul body has helped my physical body. For
Yeah.
the longest time, I was on high blood pressure medication. Like, I was put on hypertension medication in my 20s. In the last 3 visits to this new doctor, my blood pressure has been perfect.
That's great, Ryan.
I need to lose a little weight, don't get me wrong, but it's still, I I have no reason not to believe that one thing didn't have the other thing just hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love this, y'all. So as you can see, like self-love, it creeps into everything. It's physical, human, soul, all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, this conversation has been really expansive. I feel like we have, I love how we've given examples of our own real life, because I feel like I get a lot of feedback from my listeners that they love that, because you and I both know that we're reflections of each other. So when we're willing to be here and be honest and vulnerable and authentic about our journey, it's so much easier for people who might be newer to this or whatnot to get that. And
It makes it relatable.
yes, yes. And so I love that. And I love, you know, we've gone all over the place where people are probably going to get some stuff reiterated, which is always helpful to hear things we already know over. But I feel like we've gone in directions too where people might be like, wait, say what? Huh? Which is always what we want to do too. And of course, we've showed an amazing diagram. And so, and I also, Ryan, want to be mindful of our time, because you and I have a certain amount of time we're here. So this is normally the point, and you all, again, very reminiscent of a coaching session. But Ryan, you and I have surfed the gamut in this moment, and we've gone with the flow really well. We've pinged off each other. In this moment, as we're kind of approaching that time to start wrapping up, is there anything that's coming through you right now where you're like, oh my gosh, I must say this again? Or, oh, whoa, we didn't mention this and I need to get this out before we're done. But is there just anything coming through you right now?
Yeah. There is one thing that I wanted to add before we bring this home, is that self-love and self-care is going to look different for everybody. There are close to 8 billion people on the planet. There's going to be close to 8 billion recipes for what full self-love and self-expression look like for everybody. And there's not a right and wrong way to do this. Is you know Flow is just such a great word here. Is whatever feels right, intuitively, energetically, it just whatever feels right to you at the time. I think that's been the biggest lesson that I have taken away in my own journey, and the lesson that I'd like to leave with your listeners um, from this conversation.
They know we like the flow here at the Bold Thing too. And y'all, like where Ryan just pointed to it, it's really nailing it. And it sounds really easy. And let me just say, you know, I've had my fair share of challenges. Even when I've known intuitively, I maybe would be served better by not doing something or something else. I needed a lot of support to be able to take my hands off the wheel, because my perfectionist doer busy patterns, they were ingrained really big. And never think there's something wrong with you if you try to do any of this on your own and it's challenging. There's a reason why we're having this conversation today.
Yep.
There's a reason why coaching is a field. And we can talk about it till the cows come home, but if we have a pattern in place that gets in our way of that, we need to find a way to interrupt it and unravel it. And that's part of why we're here. So whether it's about this conversation today, whether it's about just anything, I know I can speak for Ryan when I say this. We are here. If you want to ask any questions about coaching, if you want to maybe hire a coach, if you want to be a coach, like, we're here to help. And we were both in the position at some point where we had to go and ask questions too. Will you talk to me about this? Is this really a job? Should I really hire a coach? Did you actually get anything out of it? And that's part of why we're doing this, is we want you to know that there's people that care. There are no strings attached. We just want to make sure if people want coaching, they find the aligned coach. And you might be looking for coaching and we might say, oh no, you actually are looking for something else. So we might be able to help get you to where you're actually trying to go. We're not going to try to push you anywhere, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
It might not be coaching.
Yeah, no, we're all, I mean, all coaches that I know and in our community, we're all eager to answer questions to be able to help guide people in certain places. If you want to hire us, beautiful. If you need something else, even better. If you want to become a coach, that's even better. But none of us are shy about talking about this stuff.
And y'all, that's amazing because sometimes you might be thinking you're looking for coaching and you're not. So then all of a sudden you have someone helping you over here. So like I said, whether it's questions, comments about this topic, or if you're just looking for some direction, holler at us. And
Yep.
and again, ways to follow Ryan, to reach out to Ryan. If you're looking for a new great podcast, if you're looking for a new great book, that is all there. Or if you just want a new Instagram friend or a new person to follow and be on the journey with, we're just here throwing some love out into the world because coaching is misunderstood.
Yes, it is.
And so we're here to shine the light on that. Ryan, thank you for being a yes when I gave you a very, very vague invite on what would actually be taking place here.
It was vague, but this has been just an incredibly enlightening conversation for me. And again, the value that I hope your listeners take away from it is will be different from the value that I had from having the conversation. But I'm grateful for the invitation, and the yes is probably still going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all as well, like if you didn't know, the bold thing, the foundation that my pillars actually sit on of my brand, it's literally self-love.
Yeah.
So self-love is literally the foundation of anything you see me doing. It's the driver of all the things. So thanks for being here. I would consider being a part of this conversation, self-love. And as always, if there's anyone that comes into your mind, please share this. We might have said the snippet that they need to hear. This kind of sharing can really, really shift someone's trajectory. So if you know anyone who just needs to hear the message, who might want to be a coach, who might want to hire a coach, please share this, because sharing means caring.
That it does. Deanna, it's been a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So grateful for you, my friend.
You as well, my dear.
And I will see all of you beauties next week.